Well, the one and only Aaron Torres joining us from Aaron Torres Media, Aaron Torres Sports Podcast, Fox Sports Radio on a Friday where it's almost football season. But SEC basketball schedule got released earlier this week. They teased it a little bit with the first weekend with Arkansas, Tennessee, and a couple of other games I can't remember. But then we loved seeing a Saturday, January 31st home game against Kentucky, hoping it's a night game. And it was just nice to see a little basketball before we really dive into football practice.
No, I think the SEC, to its credit, I think, they did a good job of, I just think those first few Saturdays in really January and February are going to be really, really, really fun. And we know it's a football world. We get it's a football world. I think the counter to that is that once football kind of starts to wind down and frankly wrap up, it's good to know that the league is, knows how valuable its basketball product is and is now giving us games that we want. So it's funny because I was thinking about last year, the Tennessee game when Arkansas went there. Now we get the return to Bud Walton Arena. So fun set of news. And, it was good. It was good to kind of get everything out there and kind of know official dates and times and all that stuff.
Yeah, and now obviously it's football season, really, because it's the middle of practice right now, and just kind of hoping that we're not in a place where, maybe like 6 or 7 weeks from now we're talking basketball again. The first God, that's not what you want here. It's not what you want here. And I think the only school that may be going into the season, maybe a couple of them that's thinking that could happen, would be Kentucky, and they always talk basketball, but this isn't really looking like a great year for Kentucky football, even though they did everything they possibly could to keep Mark Stoops around. And Mississippi State, I think, not too much expected from them, but they may be talking basketball in September. We're hoping the Hogs are not, Aaron. And in order to do that, probably need to go 3-2.
You'll know this better than me. I think Mississippi State might just start talking baseball and fall ball workouts and bullpen depth and all that stuff in about 2 weeks. It's funny. I'll let you in on a little secret that I probably shouldn't, but I will anyway because we're all friends here. Just keep it between me, you, and Phil, Matt. I've already told my producer, Matt. I've said, hey, I know September, October is football season. I don't really plan on stopping to stop talking Kentucky and Arkansas basketball specifically, even in September, assuming there's something noteworthy. I mean, I'm not going to be doing a 30-minute breakdown of DJ Wagner's form on his jump shot or anything like that. But, if there's something newsworthy, I think in the past I've tended to really kind of, just focus on football and stay with football at least until we get into November. But I think, with the excitement specifically around those two teams, transparently, I see from a distance a lack of excitement around the football programs. And I think the other thing, too, we criticize the NCAA for everything, but allowing these exhibition games, all of a sudden, that kind of really moves the season up another week or two. I don't know if Arkansas officially has anything on the books. I know there was talk of Memphis, but, Kentucky plays an exhibition against Purdue, in the second to last week of October. Tennessee hosts Duke at an exhibition the second to last week of October. All of a sudden, that's content that, frankly wasn't there even 2 years ago that is now. So, listen, I'm hoping the Hogs go undefeated in football, and I'm hoping that Calipari's team and the squad is an afterthought until we get to November and December. But I think also realistically, not only is there so much excitement about the basketball team, but we'll probably be talking about them a little earlier than normal, I hate to say it. So.
Hey, AT, I know Arkansas has Notre Dame coming in, and it kind of got me thinking a little bit about some of the running backs. And usually the SEC, you just think back the last 10, 20 years, the SEC's loaded with running backs. Jeremiah Love, the running back for Notre Dame, he might be the best running back we've faced this year. What's your thoughts on Jeremiah Love?
Yeah, listen, as far as, I'll just be transparent. So, Cade Klubnik from Clemson is my Heisman. I think he's going to win the Heisman. That would be my pick today. But I think if you're looking for dark horse Heisman picks, Jeremiah Love would be it. And, guys, I'll tell you this, is that I actually think that Arkansas game kind of looms large on Notre Dame's schedule. I mean, if you look at their schedule, they open at Miami, then they have a really early bye, then they get Texas A&M at home, and then after that, the schedule really lightens up, USC, whatever. And so I just bring it up because, listen, we know how you guys know better than I do, but I know from a distance how tough Razorback Stadium is to play in, just as Tennessee, just as Texas in Sark's first year. And it's like, one, if Notre Dame gets through those first two games, they're probably headed towards something close to an undefeated season. But also if they split those first two games, if they lose those first two games, all of a sudden that game against Notre Dame or against Arkansas becomes that much more important. So I know that there is a lot of excitement around that game. I know actually it's turned into a kind of a big recruiting weekend. I think you guys are having a couple campus student athletes on campus that weekend. But I just bring it up because that game kind of does loom pretty large on Notre Dame's schedule. Obviously, not a game that they would want to lose if they're, serious about making another playoff run. So I just think it's interesting how it falls on the schedule. But yes, to your point, Matt, Jeremiah Love is really good. And if I was kind of giving out a list of kind of dark horse players to potentially compete for a Heisman, I think Notre Dame running back who rushed for well over 1,000 yards and close to 20 touchdowns last year, you could pick a lot worse of a candidate.
Real quick on just to bring something up on basketball and translate that to football. They're not expanding March Madness for 2026, and it's like a collective sigh amongst college basketball fans. Thank goodness, because it doesn't seem like anybody wants this. I wonder, what do you think? What is the feeling that you hear or feel around expansion of the football playoff and maybe changes to that? And so I think what people don't want is another thing that's March Madness that's an added first four. And I think the feeling is if you're adding another 4 teams or whatever, that's essentially what you're doing to the football playoff. And I wonder if maybe, adding more home games or campus sites. I thought the campus sites was really cool. Do you see any similarities in the way that people are viewing expansion of March Madness and it not happening and potential expansion of the football playoff?
Well, it's a great question. So I think that, we were all, as a public, just kind of duped as far as the second we got to 12, it was just presented to us as a foregone conclusion that we were getting maybe 14, probably 16. Now, you guys, I think, know where I stand, but I never really felt like we needed to expand to 12 because I think, you let in a lot of teams that aren't good enough to win the championship, but I get 12. 12 had its benefits. 12 was fun. I'm not going to deny that. I bring it up because as we've gotten deeper into the spring and summer, and it's clear, I don't think it's public posturing. I think the SEC and Big Ten fundamentally disagree on what that playoff should look like, and maybe as importantly, how teams get there, are there play-in games, all of that stuff. Why I bring that up is because, to me, it does feel like there's a lot of people that have come around to the idea now that it doesn't feel like it's pressing, that it's going to happen and that we're not going to get an announcement in the next week or the next 2 weeks or whatever, that why do we need it? And I've actually seen a lot of people very publicly come out and say that. I think Dan Wetzel from ESPN wrote a column. I know Nicole Auerbach did from where she works at. And so I only bring it up because I think there are a lot of people that are like, wait, why do we need 4 more teams? And we saw how those first-round games went last year, and I think we haven't really totally figured out this 12-team format yet, especially in the expanded conference era where teams are playing imbalanced schedules. So from my perspective, I think that independent of the basketball stuff, I think the fact that we're kind of at a stalemate on how to get to 16 has made a lot of people reevaluate. Do we need to go to 16? And just really quickly, I do think there are some parallels with March Madness and this is my concern with expansion, is how many teams do you let in before it just completely devalues the regular season, where you're talking about teams with 3-4 losses getting into a college football playoff, and then at that point, that kind of has just eliminated everything that college football always was and why we loved it. So that's where I think it is. Long story short is, I think now that 16 isn't imminent, I think a lot of people are taking a step back and saying, why exactly do we need to go to 16 again? I need an explanation on that.
also say in some cases, like the idea of a Cinderella, if you're adding more teams to the college football playoff, you're not adding group of 5 teams. You're adding Power 4.
Exactly.
And I wonder if that's the same idea if they expand March Madness, because I don't think they're expanding that for the Big West or for the Missouri Valley or Ohio Valley or anything like that. The Sun Belt, they're expanding that for the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 4 leagues and the Big 100%. East, basically. I mean, and that's the thing. Nobody really wants to see that because nobody will believe that these teams really belong there anyway.
Well, that's 100% accurate, Phil. And that's my frustration is, and I've said this a lot with the basketball side of things, everything is already so weighted for the power conference teams. It's like, dude, I'm sorry, 68 teams get in. I mean, we could do the math, but I mean, even if you want to include, say, the Mountain West and like an A10 type leagues as, like school, like the point I'm trying to make, like everything is so weighted towards the Big Ten and really the Power Four leagues as it is. It's like if you can't get into this field, like that's kind of on you. I mean, you go back to the bubble last year in the NCAA tournament. This was still one of the craziest things. I'll just give you a random example, but until the last week of the season, Nebraska was on the bubble. Now, why does that matter? Why should you care? Nebraska did not qualify for the Big Ten tournament. The Big Ten let in, I think, 14 teams, 15 teams, or 14 teams. 4 teams stayed at home. Nebraska did not qualify for the Big Ten tournament, and until the final week of the season, they were on the bubble. And if you add 4 or 6 more teams, it means that Nebraska, which couldn't qualify for its own conference tournament, was going to be in the NCAA tournament. So, yes, Phil, everything would go to the power leagues. I'm sorry, if you can't finish in the top 8, 9, 10 of the SEC or the Big 10 or the Big 12, you've had your opportunities. And to your point, it's not as though the selection committee is going to say, well, this team. No, they're going to go by what the computers print out. The computers print out favoritism for the conference, the power conferences, and it will lead to just more bad power conference teams getting in rather than the 28-5 team from some conference that you're not familiar with that probably deserves that spot.